It's going down in a few more seconds. Valencia Real Podcast. Let's go.
What's up, fam? It's your boy Dr. Mike, and it's almost that time to get real, raw, and relatable. Looking forward to talking to y'all soon. Peace.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Terrence. Welcome back to another season of Relentlessly Real Podcast. So excited to have you all back. We got a lot of great stuff. Check us out.
You're now listening to The Real.
Man, I appreciate them dudes for talking about
The Raw.
Wait, they were talking about
The Relatable.
That's exactly what I've been going through.
The Relentlessly Real Podcast.
Good morning. We are here, as we often are. Welcome to the Valencia Real Podcast, where we discuss real, raw, and relatable topics. Thank you for taking time to listen to the podcast today. Let's kick this off with some introductions. My name is John.
And I'm tired.
Just tired. Just tired. That's his name, folks.
Tired.
Man, let me tell you something about this week and how it's wore me all the way out. I am just sitting here. We were just actually sitting here prior to the podcast, like, man, it's a little rough right now through these trenches of life, in terms of how busy we are and how many things are going on. So what's going on with you, Tia? You all right?
Yeah, I'm tired, man. We got spring break starting Friday, and I
couldn't be happier.
I could not be happier. But this week, like you said, like work. I had a job fair. I had something else going on at school. It's just been busy.
It brings me to my question for today a little bit, because I'm not even going to put it on the screen today. I'm going to just ask the question flat out. And I'm going to change it a little bit because I think a different question should be asked. And the question is, in your 30s, how has life changed from what you thought life would be in your 30s or 40s to what you thought it was going to be maybe in your 20s? Because life has changed. Let's be 100% clear about that. Like life has gotten a little harder.
It's weird because in my 20s, I wasn't one of the ones. I've partied more in my 30s than I did in my 20s, and that's the weird thing. I didn't think that, but I never thought I was going to be a partier anyway, across the board. But
yeah,
I definitely have partied more.
You party more in your 30s or 40s?
In my 30s than I did in my 20s.
Yeah.
So in my 30s, it was like I did a lot more. I did way more traveling than I thought I would be because I was into it, but I didn't think I would be into it like that.
Yeah. So you got more into it as things came along.
Yeah, exactly.
I definitely feel that. I think one thing that I noticed is that, man, health is like what I should have did more in my younger ages when it concerns health. And just having a regimen of exercise and like discipline and eating the right things or whatever. Man, when I got a little older, I was like, bro, this is crazy. And I'm not even that old. We're 30. I'm 36. Or am I 36? Yeah, I'm 36. You know, it's bad when you start thinking about how old am I?
You know how old you are.
I think I'm 36. And I know you're 40. And so I'm just sitting there. Yeah, I am 36 because my sister just turned 40. I'm sitting there like, man, life has changed for me, man. As I got into my 30s, in my late 30s specifically, you start to just deal with your health. You start to deal with the fact that it's a constant regimen of running at the top of your ability, I guess, if you could say so. Like you're just always like on the run. And I'm like, man, what about life has changed for you a little bit? Like when you start to reflect back, do you think are you on par for who you thought you were going to be at 40? Or are you like, man, I'm behind?
I looked that far ahead. I don't think I looked that far ahead. At least I didn't. Which is like a whole problem itself. But I think I just, I think I'm further along than what I thought I was going to be. But the issue is in my 30s, I actually started looking more ahead to my 40s than I did in my 20s. In my 20s, I was just like, I'm just gonna take everything as they come, as they come, as they come, as they come. All right, Brand. All right, B Dunk. All right, you just turned 30. All right, all right.
Making us feel old out there.
Yes, especially me. I got you by a decade. Dang.
Yeah. When you were 10, he was not even here.
He was not even a thought.
Makes you start to think, man. Think about life. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I just said like it was, way, 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 way different than what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
So
I got you. And here's the thing. So here's the question I was thinking about. What is one thing you have yet to do in life that by doing it would make your life complete? What is one thing you have yet to do in life that by doing that very one thing would make your life complete? I know. I got you thinking deep this morning. Pause.
I would actually like to have a lot of investments. And I'm not talking about these little itty titty bitty stocks. Like I would like to have. I did itty titty.
I'm 12.
Itty titty stocks. I wouldn't say complete, but if I think I had some nice investments, because that's the stuff I thought about more in my 30s. Like, okay, cool. Because here's the catcher. Because I looked up, like technically speaking, I could retire from my job in 10 years, like and catch an early retirement.
Jesus Christ, you're that old? I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, so technically speaking, I'm not doing that. So I'm not like that's not even. But so
why? Why wouldn't you? Sorry, side note. Why would you not do that?
It's early. I'm like I would lose a portion of what I put in, and I don't want to do that. I want all my money. So
okay.
I am taking, but so which pretty much says in 15 years I'm out. So like literally, I have 15. Actually, I have 14 more years, and I can walk away from my job.
You can retire.
I can retire.
I didn't even know I had friends that were that old that could start thinking
at least from work. Because I literally got into my career when I was 24.
Okay.
So it makes sense. So 30 years, that's 54.
Yeah.
So
no, I got the math. I was just like, wow, my friends are older, a little older.
Yeah, John. When you start thinking about that, like, because sometimes when you wake up, you like. Sometimes when I wake up, I'm like, oh crap, I own a house. Like, oh crap, like makes sense. Like, oh, I got kids. Oh crap, my kids are in school. Like, oh crap. But then after a while, I'm like, oh wait a minute, this has been going on for quite some time. I've been out.
You've been a dad for a minute.
Yeah, and then like, oh wait a minute, like this clock is ticking.
It is. I actually had that realization this morning. And people that don't have kids, this is just something I want to just say in general. You wake up often like, man, I'm a parent. Like whether you're a dad or a mother, you're like, man, I can't believe that I'm a parent. Like, I mean, I'm still lacking in so many areas, and I got to actually take care of somebody else. It's kind of crazy, right? So, to your point, T, it's like I think often about the same thing, like making sure I have enough investments and making sure I have enough things to kind of insulate my family properly. So that what is that one thing you have yet to do in life that by doing it would make your life complete? I think it's just kind of getting to the sweet spot of success for me. Would be probably the one thing that I would think of. Is the one thing that I hope I could get, and I'm like, man, once I'm there, I feel better about life. I feel like I can move on with life in a way that would be very helpful for me. So that's one thing, and I will say another little major key for anyone that's still listening, or is listening, is that, man, I'm realizing the older I get, less is really more. Because I used to think that it was about, running at the top of my ability every single day. You got to crush it, and all these other things. And so I'm thinking I'm learning now to slow down more, to take more time to actually think every day. Like one thing that I'm really trying to be more disciplined about is taking time in the morning and set aside time and actually think about my day. And I was just talking to Terrence about that because I think a lot of times I'm just running around this earth like a chicken with his head cut off. And I don't think that's how that's where I'm trying to go, which I'm trying to aspire towards wealth and legacy. I think the people that are often doing those things, they're not running around with their chicken head, like a chicken with their head cut off. They are very measured and they understand what they're doing, and they understand what the goal is and they're going after it. And I think that's powerful. So and reading. Last thing I'll say is reading a lot more often than I used to before. I mean, everything is about reading right now for me.
That's what's up. Yeah, I don't have time to think when I wake up.
Right, but a lot of the books speak about getting up earlier before you would have to get up, so that way you could
That's true.
like you would go to the gym, mentally going to the gym type thing.
Yeah.
So
I
that was
am doing
just
that more.
you said what? Say it again.
I am doing that more. I'm getting up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock to go work out
To go
more.
work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one thing that you did do. Actually, you did it yesterday. It frustrated me because I was like, Terrence, you are literally a 6-year-old kid. When it comes to just life. And I love that about you. And what can you explain to the listeners what you did yesterday to your
Oh, that was dope. So the whole April Fools. So I play pranks on my staff. I've done a lot of things. I'm glad some of them are not on here right now. I put like fake cockroaches in teachers' classrooms
Yeah.
on the desk. I've like stolen things from items and hit them around a different room. I always play pranks on my staff, so they look forward to it. So this year I was going to prank my kids, my students,
Mm-hmm.
and so the whole week I was like, yeah. So we haven't given lockers out in 2 years.
Right.
For school, just because of COVID. And honestly, it's just actually no lockers is a huge headache. It's a huge, like, less of a headache. And
Yeah.
so I told the kids, like, yeah, guys, on Friday we're getting lockers
Mm-hmm.
because we're preparing for next year when there's no real COVID sanctions and we're going back to normal. And so we're gonna get lockers. And the kids were like excited. Students were like excited. I'm like, yeah, we're getting lockers. So pretty much what I had to do was I had to organize all the students by homeroom. I had time to do this. It took time. I had to print a homeroom list with all the homeroom teachers and all the homeroom kids alphabetical order. And then what I did is I went upstairs and looked at all the locker numbers and I assigned locker numbers to a homeroom.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I did, I created a fake combination for all the lockers. So all the homeroom teachers gave out lockers to all the students, and they were excited to say, all right, you guys go out, go check your lockers, make sure it works. And they were just outside checking lockers and like, it's not working. Like Mr. Lindsay, Mr. Robinson, it's not working. Like something's going on. Like I was like, well, y'all, it's been 2 years. You haven't just try it again. Did you turn to the right two times, then turn back? Like it's not working. So eventually they figured out like, wait a minute, is this a prank? I was like, no, just keep trying. It's not, but you're recording. I absolutely am recording. It is a prank. I got all of you all.
That's ridiculous.
All. And I'm definitely putting it on TikTok. So it was so funny. Like it was hilarious.
No, that's a pretty terrible prank. And I think on par with your prank is this one here, T. I want you to check this prank out. I don't know if you saw it already.
No, I didn't.
Nah, how you been? Everything been all right? I know it's been a minute. You been good?
I'm good. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah. Look, I want to just cut straight to the chase. Like, like when you left my life, or I left your life rather, a lot of started going downhill for me. And, I just want to tell you that you meant a lot to me. I never told you nothing like this before. And I was kind of immature. It's been a couple of years since we've seen each other, but I think I've grown into the man that I want to be, and I don't see myself being with anybody else but you. And I just wanted to tell you that. I don't know if you're in a relationship or have something else going on, or whatever the case may be, but I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for what you did for me. I miss you, and if you're not seeing anybody, I would like to see you again on a more serious note, because I know I'm old, but I think I'm mature into the man I want to be now.
Wow, baby. I don't know what to say because I have been waiting so long for you to say something like that to me. What happened to you? What happened?
Hey, before I don't miss you at all. I couldn't have been doing better. Out there.
That's not right. It's not funny.
It isn't funny, but it's I died. He said, April Fools, I couldn't be doing better without you.
Why would you do that? Like,
I don't even know, man. That thing had me cracking up, though.
that's really like,
that's the next level of I don't give a F about you or your life or who you are as a person, etc. So
that's a good question. Have you ever played a prank with like a joke?
I don't have the ingenuity. Honestly, I'm not that guy. I don't. I'll be pranked on. Somebody's gonna prank me before I'll ever prank the next person. I don't think about stuff like that. I don't. So
it's funny because I remember. So I get my staff members, and they got me back so bad last year that I didn't even want to prank anymore. I gave
wow.
up with them. Like they got into my office, and I was not at work that day. So one of the other assistant principals gave him the key to my office, and somebody took a picture of me and distorted it, and they printed out 400 copies, and they taped them all across my classroom. I mean, off my office. I mean, it was pictures, distorted pictures everywhere: windows, computers, chairs, doors, like the entire thing was like 400 pictures just
Are you
taped.
serious?
Then they cut up, they shredded colored paper into confetti, and they put the confetti everywhere. Like when I say it's actually still in my desk drawer today, I can't get it out without a vacuum.
How
It
many
was like
how many years ago was that?
this was last year. And this is like 2021, but like
Yeah.
during the school year.
Yeah.
And I said, this took you all like hours. to do.
Dedication. Yeah.
Dedication. So I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? White flag. I quit. I don't want to play no more. Like, so I won't break them. Y'all won. Y'all won. Like,
Also,
literally,
do y'all do work at work? Like, do y'all ever think y'all might want to actually, I don't know,
It's
do your
April.
jobs?
it's April.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's April. It's April.
I was just wondering.
It's
You know, I
April.
was just okay. You're right.
At
You're
this
right.
point, we're babysitting. That's it. So
I get it.
no, I'm
I
just
get
kidding.
it.
I'm joking.
So,
It's not true.
so Lee Daniels finally apologizes to Monique.
No.
Y'all, she was my best friend. My best friend. Y'all think that Precious was just that was God working through both of us. And we gonna do it again. I love you. I love you. I love you. Staten Island. We love you. To realize.
All right. You can
So-
fuck off.
So Lee Daniels he apologizes to Monique from the Precious feud, and she will replace Octavia Spencer in Netflix thriller Demon House. What are your thoughts on that, Terrence?
So
Tarika?
it is very mature. It is
Mhm.
very mature. I appreciate the maturity. I did not see that one coming. Monique was beating this dead horse for like a while, but I guess she was right. That's why he apologized. I'm not like, that's and we need to, especially after the slap heard around the world this week, we do need to see like
Some love.
We need to see some
Yeah.
love from our leaders in the arts community, so we needed to see some love. So I appreciate that. I still think she went a little bit too far, and she don't quite knows how. I think she was like that. She went a little bit too far, but
Yeah.
I think in the long run, I think that I actually am happy that he was somebody has to give in. It can't keep going back and forth. At this point, you guys both look immature, so somebody has to give in. So I appreciate him giving in.
Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed, but apparently there was a role that 50 Cent was going to give to Monique. And he had kind of like put out there he's going to, put her in this role and basically like cancel this whole idea that Monique is canceled. And 50 Cent actually said that Lee Daniels and Oprah need to apologize to Monique because she's about to blow up. Like that was 50 Cent's big like thing that he says, right? So he says that like that was not even maybe 2 weeks ago. He says that. And then basically this happens like not long after he says that, but the other funny part of this entire conversation is, didn't Monique ask us to cancel Netflix? And now she's going to be appearing on a Netflix.
She did. So what I'm realizing, and this relates with not relates, they don't pay, some of these like breakout roles from people or whatever it is, if those artists don't get paid a lot from that. I remember seeing this week, and I don't know how I remember that movie American Pie.
Yeah.
And it was like that movie was huge. Remember how it was like huge when it came out?
Gigantic, yes.
And the main guy, Stifler, right?
Yeah.
He got paid $10,000 for that movie.
Did he?
He got paid only $10,000 for his role in that movie.
Wow.
And everybody, and Stifler became, no one knows who his name is in real life. Everybody knows him as Stifler and Stifler's mom. That's it.
Yeah.
And he got paid $10,000. So some of these breakout roles from these artists, I'm realizing they don't get any money from it. Meanwhile, everybody else, the studio is getting
they're getting paid, man.
Yeah, Precious was a big deal.
Oh yeah, yeah. But that's the game. I mean, the hope is that it puts you on the map. You know, you get this little, I mean, when you're not a known artist or actor, you get this little bit of money and you get to be able to show the world who you are. Now they know your name, and then maybe for the hopes of getting more bigger gigs. The other issue is that you could be tight, I think it's called tight roll casted or something like that.
Yeah.
Typecasted,
Yeah.
where now you can, they only see you in that one
In
way,
that
like
one
Urkel,
role.
like Urkel from Family Matters or
Oh,
whatever.
wow.
Like,
And he never lived out of that, I don't think. He never.
No, like he could never live it down. So never again could he be rolled. And another person that I actually think had the same issue is the same person that's now falling away from acting. Bruce Willis' family reveals he is retiring due to his cognitive abilities being impacted by brain damage. So
I
he
saw
is no
that.
longer. You saw that?
I saw this article. I saw the caption. I didn't know it was brain damage.
Yeah, apparently it was something linked to dementia, actually.
I can see that.
Yeah, something linked to dementia. So it's just interesting that, I mean, I think he was also typecasted, if that's the right
Oh, he was
terminology.
action.
Like he's only action, like
Yeah.
which is why I think what Kevin Hart did was so smart by starting to like explore or build his brand out, where he's like now trying to be a little bit more serious in his movies and stuff, so he could be able to get more serious roles. But I don't think he's even looking to be like accepted by Hollywood necessarily, as he is like, I'm going to let my own company facilitate my need to go deeper in this,
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say that.
It's interesting. No, I said, yeah, that's good. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So, as you guys know, we've been kind of talking about the church concerning sex, the church concerning marriage, the church concerning so many different things. But today is actually going to be a little bit about marriage. And I think the beginning of this conversation, and it's not going to be a long one because we got to hop off a little early today, but we do want to make sure we have some kind of conversations around this topic, because I do think there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to the topic of the church and marriage, man. And I really want to, I guess one of the biggest things that we've talked about, especially last week, is the church talking about sex, the church talking about sex in general, and how I think I made a point to how that also negatively impacts how you go into marriage, because if you don't have good conversations, healthy conversations, or any conversations related around marriage, then how do you then go into a marriage where you're supposed to freely give up this thing called sex on a weekly, daily, monthly, minute by minute basis? So like, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that particular conversation, T, but like that was where everything kind of launched from the conversation when it talks about sex and marriage in the church.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that like what immediately comes to my mind about the idea of marriage and whatever it is like, I even think about just like the Catholic Church. And the reason why it comes up is because as a priest, you can't be married, you can't have sex, and I would love to talk to someone who went to Catholic Church, but if I'm correct, the ideology comes from that ideology is stemmed from like Paul, and Paul's talking about like for me, like God is enough. I wish you all could be like me, where me pleasing God is just enough, but if you can't, whatever it is, then let each man have one wife. And I think what I see from a lot in the Catholic Church or whatever it is that everybody is just out here just, I'm not going to be married. God is enough. And for Paul, that was out. You can call it a gift or whatever it was, but whatever had transpired in his life, his transformation, he was just so dependent on God and so leaning on God that nothing else mattered. Makes sense? That's not everybody. Like I would eventually say that's like not even 99% of the population. And so I think that's one of the biggest, right off the top right there, I've seen in the church is the idea about marriage is that one thing is the flip side is that you don't need marriage. You could just serve God and everything else is fine.
Right.
And I think a lot of problems happen inside the Catholic Church because they're sitting here trying to live up to a standard that God himself didn't even give.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Like, I didn't even give you that standard. I didn't tell you not to get married. I don't know where you get, what are you doing? And so now they're sleeping with this nun, or sleeping with this person in secret, and sleeping with this child in secret. Like whatever it is that they're going on is because of it's because something that's being taught by a church and not necessarily tied into the Word of God. And that's what I want. Like a lot of times, I think the do things or they teach things that are about their specific institution and not necessarily tied to specifically serving God.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a very I agree with a lot of things you said. And I was thinking I actually had a conversation with Jovita yesterday because the kids are watching some Disney movie. And Disney, I don't know if you know, and I'm gonna do an actual whole podcast about this for my Narrow podcast, but Disney's actually going even further in their
Yes.
exploration of teaching our children sexuality and
Mhm.
like what they should be experiencing and what they should be looking forward to as kids, as they're gonna basically have more roles that will be like transgender roles and all these other things. They will have more in the forefront roles like that. And the reason I even wanted to go there was because of kind of what you were saying, because it made me think, like, whose job is it? Because I know we put a lot of weight on the church, and then this topic obviously is about the church. But when it comes to the topic of sex, should my parents have been the ones to talk to me more about it, or should that weight justly be on the church to get, or should it be both? Is it not an either or? Is it a combination, you think, of both the parents and the institution that say this is what the perspective of Christianity is supposed to come and flow from? Whose job is it, right, to have those initial conversations or even the conversations in its totality?
It's interesting because I don't know whose job is it to have the initial conversation. I think it would like to be the parents, but in 2022, that's probably not possible. I shared with you all before. I was watching. I don't know if I shared it on a podcast, but I went to go see that Marvel movie, The Eternals, and The Eternals is the first movie with there's an openly gay character, and there's an openly gay kiss scene or whatever it was in the movie, right? And I had nothing against like homosexuality, like I don't like make sense.
Were you
It's not
watching?
even,
Hold on, before you go on, were you watching it by yourself or with your kids?
I went to go see. I saw it in the movie theaters, and
By
so
yourself or with your kids?
I was by myself. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so I had already knew about. It. Yeah, I had already knew about because I just study movies, and so. And it's a funny conversation. I actually would talk more about it. And that's the reason why I want to have the conversation, because that actually wasn't even what bothered me the most. That the gay kiss between the guys is not even what bothered me the most. What I actually was, because this is a comic book movie, right? It's a comic book movie. It's meant for teens, some kids, but the scope of this movie, it was very like for the most part kid friendly. Like I've seen some other comic book movies, I'm like, well, this might be for teenagers, but this one was almost, but with the exception of the homosexuality scene, but more importantly, the sex scene between the man and the woman in that movie, right? And so I actually left that movie being bothered by that more than anything, because it was like
Okay.
overly overt kissing. There was an overly overt like sex scene, yet it wasn't nudity, but it was very clear they're on the beach and they're having sex. And I
Okay.
left the movie saying, why was this necessary to tell this story?
Mm.
It absolutely, it was so funny. It absolutely did nothing to the story. We knew the main guy was in love with this girl just from the dynamic of the story that was going on. So
Yeah.
the overly like tongue down lip kissing was not even needed to tell the story. And
Right.
so what I realized, so of course my son is really into Marvel because I am, and I wanted him to see this movie. So I said, okay, cool. When it came on Disney Plus, we'll skip it. Like I'll just let him watch the movie and then I'll skip this scene. And so something happened real quick where I got distracted and I paused it, and my son saw it. And so he just says, he's like, oh, I know what that is. And I said, oh,
You know what is?
exactly. I said, you know what is. He's like, I know what
Yeah.
that is. Like, he's like, that's called being gay. And I
Okay.
said, oh, mind you, my son is 8. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, pause the whole movie.
Yeah.
We need to
Yeah.
sit there.
Let's have a
Let's
let's have
have
an
this
unpacking.
conversation. And we
Yeah.
unpacked the conversation. He's like, yeah, he's like, and he had his thoughts and his opinion. Now, for me in my house, I kind of affirmed. I'm like, I'm glad he's thinking like that. Yes, right, whatever it was, makes sense.
Yeah.
But the point is, it was interesting that I didn't even have a chance
Yeah.
to unpack that for him, because some of his friends talked about it at school, which means I don't know what they're learning or whatever
Right.
it is.
The overexposure of other
Yeah.
people around your kids, definitely does affect your kids, right? So like when your other people are overexposed in their households and they bring that overexposure to their daycare or to the, like to the school systems or what have you, then you're
Yeah.
having to combat those things on an early level. And it kind of frustrates me because as we grew up, we had permission slips signed for conversations, as they should have been done, right? Like they were like, we're not going to have this conversation without the authority or without the parent signing off on this idea of having this conversation in this environment. Now, those days are gone. And that's kind of the conversation I was having with Javita yesterday. I was like, those days are gone. They no longer feel like they need to have a conversation with the parent. As a matter of fact, if our children disagree with what we think, the system, from what I'm seeing, the system being the school system, undergirds the child more than the parent.
Yes. And it's getting to a point, honestly, where it's really about the area that you live in. And what's so funny is, and I'm being very clear, that's one of the areas, like one of the areas as far as sexuality and sex that I tend to lean more Republican, more conservative in that area, and that's just being like just being blatantly honest.
Yeah.
It tends to be, etc. I see what Tisa's saying. I saw what Brandy is saying. Depending on the topic, like even as me being a school administrator, we do have to get permission slips. So like this year, last week we were doing a discussion on consent. Like what does consent mean in health for 8th graders, so that like guys can know about sexual harassment. We had to get permission slips. If they're going on, like I remember in health, learning about health, if we were talking about sex, we had to get permission signed by a parent. It's the same thing. They have to get permission slips lines. But the problem is they're catching it from their peers, because peers are so exposed because of a cell phone, and we didn't have that growing up, and that's why I want a lot of parents to be aware of. Whenever I have to call a parent about an issue that deals with sexual thing, oh, not my child, and I'm like, yes, your child, like your child. I'm so sorry, you might have thought that, but your child is exposed to this. So if you're not having, and I've had to have a conversation with them, like not even like giving feedback, like if you're not having these conversations with your child right now, you might start. I do this for a living. You see your child at home. I see these kids at school all day long.
Yeah.
You don't know what their parents are teaching them. You don't know what their parents, not even teaching, you don't know what the other parents have allowed them to have exposure to. And you don't. And so
here's my question, T. How early are we? I mean, I see what you guys are saying. Thank you guys for your feedback. I'm wondering, how early do you have those conversations with your? You say I see the child 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day. You don't see your child but about 3 or 4 hours a day once they get home from school. Well, at what point do you say this is the proper way to go about having this conversation? Not even this is the proper way but like this is when you should start talking to your children about sex, because we all know those things they're rolling. The age bracket is rolling back every year.
Definitely back.
So
I would say definitely middle school. I would say by the time your child, honestly, at this, if you have engrossed your child into public school, that's the end of the story. That's the end of the case. That's literally
at the point in which you put them in public school.
If they are in public school, I would say by the time they get to the 5th, 6th grade, if you don't have the conversation, somebody else is. So that's just a parental call, it's a judgment call. I remember very vividly having 6th graders, and there was a young man, and I got to tell this story. There was a young man. It's a great story because of the conversation we're having. There was a young man who he was leaving class early. Couldn't figure out why he was leaving class. Could not figure out why he was leaving class early. And I kept getting like his mom was calling me. His teacher wrote him up, gave him a referral for cutting class. I'm like, but where is he going? So it kept going on for weeks. So finally, I looked up. I looked on the cameras and watched him. And I can't make this up. I'm watching him sneak out of his class, watching him go on camera, and watching him sneak towards the bathroom. And he's looking for cameras. Right? And then I see him go like this to somebody else. He's sneaking into the bathroom. I'm like, oh, this dude he's waving a girl into the bathroom. Okay. He's 6th grade. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, it makes sense. Yeah. It was a boy. It was a boy.
He was waving
a boy into the bathroom. And the boy was a 6th grade boy who was out. Everyone knew he was gay. He was very flamboyant. He was very it was out there. Makes sense? Yeah. And so the thing is, I have to now call this child's parent. You need to have you need to come to the school. I don't want to say this over the phone. We need to have a conversation, right? And so it's not even a part. He's 6th grade, like whatever it was. Do I think the child's gay? I don't even think that. What I realized is, and my mind evolved at that moment, is he has hormones. and his mom was this really old school, devout Christian woman, blah, 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 blah. We don't talk about this. We don't
Yeah.
talk about this.
We don't talk
And
about Bruno.
we don't talk about, we don't talk about Bruno, right? And so because we don't talk about it,
Yeah.
you're not experiencing it. And so forth.
Right.
But you send him to school.
Right.
And he's gonna pick up whatever energy is there first.
Yeah.
And that other boy had time for all his energy.
Yeah.
And so that was a very difficult conversation. And I'm like, I imagine having that in high school, but I'm having it with 11-year-olds.
Well, some people here already are saying fourth, kindergarten. I see third grade in terms of how early to have those conversations. Kalita said it's younger than that. I had to send kids to the social worker in kindergarten for fooling around the stall. Now they didn't know what they were doing, but I mean, yeah. So,
I did that though.
What? Ho.
I did that.
You did what, T?
I didn't know what I was. I'm going flashing back in my young.
What's happening right now?
I'm just trying to
so
say.
Confused. What did you do?
I have been in first grade. I don't know what grade it was. Second grade, third grade, and was with a third grade girl. Don't know what I'm doing. Just like, oh, come in the bathroom. And mind you, did not know anything that I was doing.
Were you doing anything?
Was doing nothing. Look, I'm laughing because I'm like, I actually, now that I'm an older, I did absolutely nothing. Like,
yo, Terrence in the stall tickling people.
Exactly. I'm in the stall, like rubbing kneecaps. Like, ooh, like,
this is exactly how it's supposed to feel.
Don't know what I'm doing. Like, makes sense. Don't know what I'm doing. So I don't think that. I think that's might be more normal than we think, because maybe I saw something on TV. I'm just saying, with we know in our generation, I had to see it on TV. I had to go dig. We talked about it before.
Yeah.
This joint, if you give your child a phone, I'm just letting you know right now, once you give your child a smartphone,
open the door. Or an iPad. Or
an iPad. You put all the blocks you want, all the blocks that you want. It's almost like better to give it to them when they're younger, but at a certain point, take it away. Because at a certain point, once they start going to seeing things and start, like, I've caught TJ, my son, Googling people, girls and boys kissing, YouTubing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like,
yeah, so the issue that I have, I'm so conflicted, and I love this conversation. We didn't even plan to go here at all, but
we didn't.
I'm so conflicted because what Javita and I kind of got into it about was this idea that, should we bring Disney here? Disney exposes these as norms, and then we confront those norms as a household, or should we just address the norms outside of bringing Disney here? And so it's this thing of, like you were saying about that one parent, like I know how my dad is, and I know how legalistic it comes across, where my dad has influenced me a lot, where it's like, no, don't do that. Stop that. That's not right. And we don't do that here. But I don't want to live a life where we just say strict commands without the understanding or the like layered depth that is required of these conversations, right? That says, no, this is why we don't. This is why, as a family, culturally, or as a family, we don't go here and don't do these things, and we live within these margins because of what we believe as Christians. This is what we do, right? So, like, I want to be able to engage culture with my family and have those conversations, but I don't want culture to bring it to my doorstep, and then I have to say, now now that my daughter has seen X, Y, and Z, because nothing even that bad happened. She watched that panda movie with that red panda movie. It just came out. It's something about red.
Big red dog.
I don't know if it's Big Red Dog, but it's something just came out on Disney about something red. I read this or something. I forget what it's called. The bottom line is that the child on the junk says, "My panda, my choice." Right? In turning red. Thank you, Javita. Turning red. And the child on the junk says, "My panda, my choice." And I said, look, my ears perked up. I said, no, that little panda did not say "my panda, my choice," like basically "my body, my choice," right?
Oh, is that what he was referring to?
Yeah, that's what the reference was, right? So, and it was kind of like, it wasn't even a big deal, but there was this kind of conflict between mom and daughter that happened throughout this movie. And I guess the mom was overprotective. I didn't see the whole movie, so now don't even judge me. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of context to say there was a little bit of banter back and forth. And it was almost as if, what I didn't like about it was that it was almost as if this movie is teaching my child how to be rebellious to my wife, basically. It is planting those little seeds inadvertently, which I didn't like. So I'm like, I already got to tell my daughter like, no, you know what I'm saying? I already got to tell her, you don't talk to me like that. You don't play with me like that. I'm not your friend. I'll knock you into the next room. I'm not that guy. I got to tell her that already. So what I don't want is to have to see the seeds that we're planting through movies and then have to uproot those daggone same seeds because we gave them the movie through Disney.
Well, Disney said 50. What is it? 50%. 50% of all characters will be.
Yeah, it was 50%.
50% if I'm correct. And then it was another one. I can't think of the state or the city, but they were having like a local government meeting where they were thinking about removing. The guy was calling for the remove genders.
Yes.
We need to remove all genders from society. Like,
so that guy's name is Mike something. I forget his last name. And he has a YouTube channel. I think it's Mike Dice, I believe. But he has a YouTube channel where he does those things. He kind of trolls those spaces and says that we should remove gender since that's just going to be the new world order anyway. So he kind of trolls those spaces. What I will say is that if you go to his page, he kind of there are things that he says that I agree with. There are things that I say I was like, wow, because he was going in on black people a lot on his page, and I was like, okay, so I don't agree with a lot of how you talking about black people because I'm about to swing on you.
But my fist is bald. My fist is bald.
I had the angry, Arthur fist as I'm watching the joke, but I was also, agreeing with some of the things he was saying because if you don't know this, and which I had to do more research about it, but Facebook has gone from saying no, not just 2 genders to 58 genders. So in this world, like again, we have to kind of have these conversations and these meaning in the mind, especially on these platforms, to say you don't got to be a bigot to say I disagree, and you don't have to say like, man, this is going to get confusing for our children as they get older. Where we used to just know it was male and female, 58 genders.
But see, I think the combo is bigger than that. I saw one of the best responses, and like I said, I'm very careful with my words because of where I work and what I do for a living.
I get it.
But I saw this. What is the black guy from that used to do the Daily Show? Now he has his own show.
Oh, Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah. And they were asking him about the idea of I want to find this. We can talk about it next week because it'll be a great clip. They were asking him about his opinion on same sex or genders, whatever it was. It was in his opinion. And that question, if you are a celebrity, that question is a death trap.
Yeah.
Because if you give your opinion.
Yeah. I saw that clip. Go ahead.
And it was dope because he answered it, but not answered it.
Yeah.
It was like great. And he was just saying, like, how do I know where to stand on this?
Yeah.
Because if I stand here, 50% of people agree on me. The country's divided. If I stand here, the other 50% don't agree with me.
Yep.
So no matter where I fall, how I answer this question, there are going to be half the people who don't agree with me. So what we need to talk about is it okay for us to have difference of opinion?
That's it.
That's the only issue I have. It's not a matter. It's not like makes. And you were kind of saying it's not even about. I always felt no matter where I stand on homosexuality, no matter where I stand on same sex, no matter where I stand on gender, whatever it is, you don't have a right to tell me that your way is the only right way and my way is the wrong way, and I got to conform to your way.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I don't like. And I think what happens is the reason why I'm mad about the Disney thing is because I get it. I get it. But children are very impressionable.
100%.
And that's the issue. So I feel like I saw teachers comment earlier about, it's so funny because I see my students, and some of them, a lot of my students are very woke when it comes to the topic of sex, depending on what's happened in their exposure, whatever it is. But then there's this pocket of my children who are just not. They flat out are not. And they go to school every day. They don't intertwine with the kids who talk about it a lot. They like make sense. They remove themselves from conversations about it. Like I see them like, yeah, because of how they are being raised and structured, this is not okay. Maybe like and I'm not judging you all for talking about it, but I don't want no part of the conversation. It makes sense. Like I'm not ready to talk about that yet, whatever it is. And so I just see this warring with kids, right? Whatever it is. And so what I'm realizing is there's still kids who just realize I'm still a child. I don't want to. I'm not in this.
Yeah.
And so what I'm realizing is it is the way that they're being raised and being structured. And so it goes back to your question. I think it is the parents' responsibilities to navigate those conversations. I think it's how you're being raised. But once you send them out, hopefully you've done a great job, right? Where my child is going to make the best decision. Once they're out there, I mean, but what they say, what they do, you gotta like.
No, it is what it is. Once they're out there, it is what it is. Yeah. No question about that. And I think you're right 100%. Once they're out there, it is what it is. I think what I'm struggling with is bringing that stuff into the house to say that's when we, and then deal with it as I'm bringing. I'm not going to be the one to bring the stuff home and then have to unpack what they done talked about and expose my child to, you know, like, and I'm like, I'm conflicted there because I'm like, I want to talk about it. But what part of bringing this to them and saying, come here, does not allude to the idea of like, I align with these values to a certain degree. Unless I speak against those values, then I definitely align with those values. And then who sits there and watches Disney Plus and then takes them kids to Disney? Like if I'm gonna tell my kids, hey man, we don't believe this, we don't believe that, we don't believe this, we don't believe that, and on Disney Plus, then hop on a plane, go to Disney World, I'm like, we ride and ride, you know, living the life of Disney.
That's the next. You realize that's the next thing. If 50% of their characters are going to be non-conforming to any gender,
yeah,
then you're going to walk around Disney World and you're going to see those same characters.
That's going
to be the expectation.
And see the world that's becoming. So this is to me the issue with the church. Where I have issue with the church is we were supposed to stand against. We were, and we've been off our job for so many years. We were called to stand against the wiles of the devil. That's what we both know. You and I both know. We were caused. That was our cause. That was our purpose. That's why we're here in the earth, to preserve the earth, to say, yo, it's our job to stand against. And we just got off our job for not just 1 year, not just 2 years, multiple years. Because all of what we're seeing from Disney in a macro way, the microcosm is when we engage our community with Christianity. But when we don't engage our community with Christianity, the micro becomes the macro, and now everybody's like, oh, well, we're gonna ram this down your throat too. Pause. And at the other side of this conversation is, if this is plausible, or if this is cool, and this is what kills me about the church people, man. Y'all don't see what's coming. If this is cool, if this is cool, what's coming? You know what I'm saying? And so we got to start to have those things like, okay, if, you know, there was one point where certain things weren't cool. I'm not even going to name the things. They weren't cool. They weren't popular culture. They weren't where we were going. That weren't what we were doing. And then at some point, the trajectory of things changed, and now everything's okay. So for the people that are struggling within, like you said, the Catholic Church of pedophilia, how does that not become the next thing, y'all? Like, that's what we don't talk about. Like, it's gotta become the next thing in a world full of equity. And we're saying we had to have equity. Then they're gonna rise up just like them Trump supporters did. And they were like, yeah, rah for racial issues and conflict. And where they came out of nowhere from the ground up, right? The same is gonna be true, or like Cleta said, or it's already true for pedophilia. And so we have to see that there's until we stand against, until we start thinking about standing against and then stand against, this is going to be the repercussions of these lack of conversations. So,
I see Brandy's conversation. Brandy said that Disney already overdoes it, and a lot of it is just, I feel bad because I'm wondering, like, I'm wondering when it comes a company thing, when it comes to a corporate world, you can't afford not to embrace it. And that's the sad part, is because your money is tied to it.
Yep.
And because money is more important to a lot of institutions, watch this, including the church, right? I gotta accept certain things in my church because they pay my offering, right? They like at some capacity, I'm not gonna be able to keep my doors open if I don't embrace all these, like if I don't embrace everything, even if it is contrary to what I believe as a, like, I don't know what the powers of Disney, like, be it Disney actually believe or feel, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right. But I like I said again, my issue with that in Eternal movies, I have to reiterate, it was the overexposure of sex as a whole. And I'm like, for this children's movie that I thought, why is this needed?
Yeah.
We didn't watch all Iron Man, Captain America, all these movies.
Didn't find without all that.
And billions of dollars without you like selling sex.
Yeah.
So Disney, why are you selling sex to me now? Like, I don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
so it's just interesting.
That's okay. We're gonna wrap on this point. That was a very, very, very valid point, T, what you just said, and I so appreciate that point. The scripture that comes to mind is that you cannot serve both God and money, and that is what I'm like. Never before than you just said it today. I've heard that scripture hundreds of times before, but in this conversation of capitalism, Disney, churches, we gotta. I don't want to say this and I got to say that. And I can't say this because I got to make sure our offering plate stays full so we can keep our church doors open, so we can be able to have bigger buildings and do more reach. And you're thinking you're doing the right thing for the wrong reason, but doing the right thing is so conflicting. But I dare us to say, let's blow up the system, because I think the Christianity way through biblical teaching is still probably the only one way that we can do this thing correctly.
Yeah.
And we have to go back to square one. So that's why this conversation is so important. So thank you, T, for that lasting point, because that capitalism piece is huge. Listen, guys, we did not think we were going to go here. We started talking about marriage, and then we ended up talking about children, kids being misled through TV, and how that informs culture, and how that informs parenting, and how we are better parents because we got to get in our scripture, get in our word, and learn how to be better believers when it comes to that. So this conversation went fully left, obviously.
But it was good. It's a good conversation.
It was great conversation.
I think we should go back to it too.
I couldn't agree more. I think literally I'm conflicted here anyway, so I won't be able to leave this space anyway. Like literally after I hop off of this live, we got to figure out how to engage with our children about these conversations ahead of Disney, ahead of YouTube, ahead of everyone else trying to tell my child, your children, our children what to think. So thank you guys so much for listening to the Relate to Real podcast, where we discuss real, raw, and relatable topics. Dr. Mike could not be with us today because he was celebrating his wife, Renee, whose birthday was this weekend. Yay, right? So we're super excited for her. And we just wanted to we want to make sure we shouted her out today. And so, Mike's hanging out with her, showering her with love, and doing all that good stuff. But we love that you guys engage with us every week, Saturday at 11 a.m. Keep following us, keep sharing our content, and keep telling people to check us out, man. Saturday, 11 a.m. We are always here. Thank you so much for listening to the Running to Real podcast. My name is John.
And I'm gonna call Mike again, because John, we didn't even get an invite to
You're not invited.
Did we?
No.
But you didn't get invited. I didn't get invited.
No, he invited me.
Oh, he didn't. Oh,
I'm lying. He didn't invite me.
So, Mike, when you listen to this, and Renee, you two, we're gonna talk about this.
I think it was just for them, Terrence. I don't think.
No, he had a whole list of things he did for the whole weekend, and then later on, he's having something at his house with this one group. But I guess we don't
fit the mold, bro.
We don't fit the mold. It's okay.
Yeah,
you know what?
It's all right. You'll be okay. All right, guys.